we will go ahead and get started laying on our backs. And as we settle into our mats here, we're going to keep feet about hip distance apart and nice and flat on our mats. Knees bent and just starting to deepen our breath here. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. As we continue breathing this way, trying to think about where we're breathing from, whether it's from the chest or the belly. Making our exhale a little bit more exaggerated each time, meaning blowing out like you are blowing candles out, or trying to kind of breathe and exhale through pursed lips. That's going to help to contract our diaphragm, our breathing muscle. And with our hands on our belly here, we're just kind of monitoring what's going on. We're observing where we feel movement and where we feel work. So on this next exhale, we're going to start to activate our core right underneath our hands. And a good way to go about doing that is to exhale and try and tuck your rib cage down, connecting it towards your hip bones. And then as you inhale, you can just relax and release. So again, exhale, feeling this deeper connection through your center. Feeling this wrapping sensation coming all the way from the back of the body to the front of the body. And as we're doing this, option to close your eyes so that you can become really aware of what's happening with your own body. Breathing is definitely one of the more important principles, not only in any exercise, but especially with Pilates. And on this next exhale, we're going to hold that gentle activation. So hold that little sensation in your center. Continue normal breathing, so not necessarily a deep breath, but just normal breaths. And as you hold here, we're going to start to make sure that things are working by kind of poking around using your fingertips both at the bottom of your belly, the top of your belly, and even the sides of your belly. Those should all be active. It's not like a big muscle burn, but we're just feeling kind of a deep, deep work here. Keep holding that sensation. And we're going to start to bring our feet a little bit lighter on our mat. So almost think about them floating on clouds or resting on clouds. And from here, we're going to go into just a little small march. So hover one foot off of your mat, keep the other foot light, and then gently placing it back down, floating up and floating down. We're alternating sides here. Maybe as you do this, you're thinking about lifting and lowering that leg by using your lower abdominals and not as much of your legs or your hips. Maybe your hands come to your lower belly to kind of remind yourself that we want to be working from right underneath the hands. On this next one, starting to make our marches a little bit bigger, ending up in a tabletop with knee directly over the hip and switching sides. Continuing our breath here. Not so much a bend from the knee, but more a hinge from the hip. Last one on each side. This last one we're going to hold here in tabletop with both legs. So, meeting both legs in tabletop, breathing here and just holding. Asking yourself what your low back is doing, asking yourself what your ribs are doing. Are they pointing up or are they tucked down? Is your back arching or is your back neutral? Is your low back pressing down into the mat? It's okay if it's pressing down. It's not as preferred if it's arching. We're going to hold for last 3, 2, and then hug those knees right in towards your chest. Take a little break. Option to rock knees side to side, or you can make little circles with your low back. We are going to make our way back to tabletop. So taking the knees right over the hips again. From here, we're going to bring our hands right onto our thighs at the top. Exhale and match equal pressure, hands pressing down slightly and knees holding still or pulling up slightly. Breathe here for 3, 2, and 1. Relax back down, hug your knees into your chest. This next time, same exact thing, except this time hands are going to crisscross and they're going to press a little bit more towards your inner thighs like this. The direction is now both down but also kind of out like an X. So, knees right back on top of the hips, hands crisscross, and then exhale, gentle press. You really don't have to press that hard. This time, maybe feeling a little bit more work in the inner thighs to hold us still. Holding for 3, 2, and relax. Hug those knees back in. This final set here, we're going to do a nice opening for the low back. So hands stay wrapped around the shins. Knees are going to push away from your chest while hands pull into your chest. Both of those at the same time. Again, you don't have to push and pull that hard, but as you do this, there's no work in the core. This is just a nice, gentle release and opening for the low back. Option to rock from side to side if that feels good. Perfect. From here, let's go ahead and place those feet down, back onto your mat. Hands are going to come back to your lower abdominals here. We're going to start with an exercise called leg slides or heel slides. So you're going to engage these lower abdominals again, maybe by tucking your tailbone under ever so slightly, feeling a connection between your ribs and your hips, nice and flat, tucked down. From here, we're going to lengthen one leg along your mat, and we want to maintain the same position of our low back, and then exhale, bend it back into the top. Alternating sides here. Inhale, straighten that leg. Opposite foot is light. It should almost feel like you're able to control this movement using your lower abs here. If your low back starts to arch and change positions, maybe don't straighten your leg out quite as far. It's okay if you stop here, if this is the range that your body can control. So keep alternating sides here, inhaling out and exhaling in. And it should almost feel, again, like that leg is just kind of floating on something, that it's not necessarily just plopping down and fully relaxing. Last one on each side. Perfect. Relax everything. Take a few just knee side to side. Windshield wipe those knees. Good. From here, hands still on the lower abdominals. We're going to start with a nice pelvic tilt here. So at the beginning of this motion, I want us to try to keep our feet light and only use the lower abs to kind of help tilt the tailbone up. So inhale through the nose to prepare, and exhale, squeeze and lift that pelvic bone towards your belly button, lifting your tailbone, and then slowly let it come down. So again, we're not using our feet to press down, we're not using our glutes at all yet, but just a little tiny tuck and release. And you can barely kind of see me moving, but I feel work right underneath my hands. Pretend like you're trying to kind of put on a really tight pair of pants and that zipper won't go, and that's kind of the in together towards midline that we're looking for. As you do this, your low back will press down into the mat. So exhale and press that low back down, and that's helping you to lift your tailbone. And on this next one, we're going to start to lift our hips up a little bit higher, but don't forget this initial kind of sensation. At the very last moment, then you can press into those heels to lift up a little bit higher. And then on the way down, same thing, each vertebrae touching down at a time with the tailbone the last to touch. Exhale, tuck, lift, and peel. Finally getting that squeeze through the glutes. Maybe you bring your hands back down towards your sides. Making this bridge as segmental as we can, meaning that we're not just lowering and lifting as one unit. Does your back have the ability to do that? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Exhaling and lifting. Either way, it's good practice to try. On this last one, we're going to hold lifted in this about halfway lift. There should be no pressure or tension in the neck. Keep the head and neck nice and relaxed. And then from here, we're going to lift the toes up and heels stay down. We're going to butterfly both knees out wide. And then exhale, squeeze the knees all the way in towards the center. Inhale, open. Exhale, close and squeeze. Tuck that tailbone a little bit more. Keep any work out of the back. Last one. Knees back to central, toes down, and then lower down one vertebrae at a time. Give yourself a nice little hug, knee into the chest. We're going to do one more set of bridges here. This one's a little bit different. So this is called a butterfly bridge. And instead of feet flat and hip distance apart, this time we're going to bring the soles of the feet together so that you're on the outer edge of your foot here. Knees are much wider. And so now we have a much smaller and narrower base of support. As we lift the hips, you'll feel a little bit more work in the outer hips. And also, we might notice more rocking and wobbling. So, exhale, lift those hips. We might not be able to do it as segmentally as we did before. We also might not be able to lift as high as before, and that's okay. Trying our best here to roll back down one vertebrae at a time. Your challenge is to try and keep yourself as steady as you can. Exhale, lifting up in this butterfly bridge. how can you control the wobbling? It is going to be through the core. 2 more just like that. Exhale, lift. And last one. So this is a great alternative as well to do a bridge while working the outer hips if you don't have things like a band. Perfect. Knees come back together. Awesome. We're going to go right into a nice hamstring stretch here before we get into our ab series. So hands are going to clasp behind the right knee. You don't have to pull your knee in that close to your chest. You can have it kind of away. But as you straighten out this leg and toes reach towards the ceiling, you're pressing the back of your knee towards and into your hands and straightening that leg out as much as you can, and then bend it back in. If you are able to get all the way straight, you can hug your knee in a little bit closer to you at the start. So exhale, once again, press the back of the knee away from you. In this position, we might also get a little bit of some nerve stretches. So just be aware of that if you're feeling any kind of pulling sensations. Last one here. Good. Before we switch to the other side, bend that knee again and just roll the ankle clockwise and counterclockwise. Take that right ankle and cross it over the left knee, opening up that left knee. From here, we're going to do one more set of bridges, this time in a figure 4 cross. So it's a single leg bridge, but a little bit supported. So hands back down by your sides. Exhale, lift both hips at the same time. Maybe noticing again a little bit of wobbling. And then slowly lower down. 2 more like that. Exhale, lift. And lower. Last one. Driving through that left heel. And relax. Perfect. Uncross that foot. Now, left knee lifts and hands clasp behind that knee. Exhale, press the back of your knee into the hands as you lengthen that foot up towards the ceiling and bend it back down. Exhale, straighten, press, and lengthen, and bend. It doesn't matter if your foot here is pointed or flexed, it's kind of just relaxed. Last one. Hug that knee into your chest again and roll the ankle clockwise and counterclockwise. Perfect. From here, left ankle crosses over right knee, letting that knee just open wide, and then planting down through now your right heel, arms by your sides. Inhale through the nose and exhale, lift both hips. And lower. 2 more like that. Exhale, lift both at the same time. Trying our best to keep those hips level. Last one. Perfect. Uncross that foot. Now that we've got our hamstrings a little bit more lengthened and our glutes are fired up, we're going to switch back into our ab series here. And we're going to start off with one knee hugging into your chest. And the other leg is going to lengthen out long at about 45 degrees. From here, we're going to exhale and switch sides. So So we're inhaling for 2 and exhale for 2. That straight leg, we want to make sure is not too low, because then we could lose that integrity of our core. So really make sure that you can still kind of like see your toes of the straight leg. On this next one, we're going to switch to a straight leg stretch. So both legs straight when you're grabbing up behind that knee and then switching sides. This is why we did our hamstring stretch first. But you will get another little stretch of the hamstring at the top. Keep the breathing going. On this next one, both legs are going to come right up towards the ceiling. Hands can come by your sides. We're going to squeeze heels together and toes apart. Knees can be as straight as they can, but it's okay if they're bent. From here, corkscrew. We're going to go down and around and then right back up to the top. And we're going to exhale at the bottom of the circle. We're going one clockwise and one counterclockwise. Our lower abdominals should be working really hard. Last one here. And relax down. Hug those knees into your chest. Perfect. Rocking from side to side if you want to. Making little circles if you want to. Perfect. From here, one last exercise before we move on to our side. Our legs are going to come back into tabletop here. And then from here, we're going to do a kind of high or level 2 bent knee fall out. So maybe hands on the lower belly again. We're going to keep the left leg absolutely frozen, and the right knee and ankle are going to slowly come out to the side, only as far as you can while anchoring both hips down, and then exhale it back up to the top. Alternating sides, inhale, open. Now right leg is frozen, and then back up. Trying your best to keep this in control. Last one on each side. And relax down, hug it in. From here, we're going to prepare to roll right over onto our side. Doesn't matter which side, since we're going to do both. We will set it up with head supported either by our hand or resting on your arm, whichever feels most comfortable. And then from here, hips are stacked one on top of the other as if there's a line going straight through. And then top hand, we're going to bring it somewhere other than the mat in front of us, because we want to use our core to stabilize and not our arm. Belly button is going to lift towards the spine, keeping it active and feeling kind of a wrapping sensation from bottom to top. Hold that here. And then finally, top leg is going to straighten. We're going to start with some rotations of the hip. So, keeping knees straight, we're going to just point toes up and heel down. And then toe down and heel up. Again, if we think about a nice long line running through the middle of our leg, we're just spinning along that line. The kneecap is also now pointing up and pointing down. We're able to do this without rocking the hip. On this last one, we're going to pause with toe pointing up and heel pointing down. From here, we're going to kick forward a few inches and kick back a few inches. Forward, no movement through the upper body, no opening as we squeeze back. On this last one, hold down and low. We're gonna bend and press. Still with toe up, heel down, bend and press. Last one. Hold that top leg lifted. We're gonna rotate toe down and heel up. Hold this rotation. Kick forward, kick back. This top leg stays at the height of the hip the whole time. On this last one, hold in the center. We're gonna bend and press so that the top knee kind of comes down in front of us, and then it pushes back in a diagonal leading with the heel. So again, bend in. You don't have to have the knee tap down, but it's just kind of coming down at an angle, and then keeping the toe down and heel up, you're pressing kind of back and up. Last one here. Perfect. On this last one, bend here and let that knee just totally relax down in front of you. If this is uncomfortable for any reason, you can also kind of grab up at the ankle and point the knee up more. From here, we're going to take a focus on the bottom leg. So bottom leg lengthens out long. We're going to exhale and squeeze it up to the top and slowly lower. Squeeze, pause, and release. On this last one, we're going to hold lifted, little pulses up. 1 inch up, 1 inch down, little squeezes. For last 3, 2, on the last one, just squeeze and hold. Lift up as high as you can, maybe 1 inch higher. Breathing, last 2, and slowly relax. Perfect. From here, top leg is gonna come right back up and over. We're gonna end with just a few kicks. So kind of opening that hip up a little bit more. We're going to check back in with the core and lift that belly button towards our spine. Hold it active. And then we're going with a straight leg to just kick up towards the ceiling and flex down. Point up and flex down. We're trying our best to do this without totally opening the hip up towards the ceiling. Trying your best to stay stacked. Last 2. And 1. Perfect. From here, before we switch to the other side, we're going to roll onto our back. Whichever leg is on top, that ankle is going to cross over the knee for a figure 4. So, coming back down, and for this figure 4, you can do whatever feels best, whether that is rocking from side to side. If you want to grab under the knee, feel free, but just make sure your head, neck, and shoulders stay relaxed and down and that your chin doesn't come upwards. Maybe you hold somewhere else. Finding that sweet spot and holding there and breathing. Let those hips melt down. When you are ready, we're going to do a nice 180 to the other side. So taking your head to the other end of the mat, if you want to still face me. We're going to set ourselves up for side lying on the other side. So from here, once again, hips are totally stacked, one on top of the other. Belly is lifted, head is supported, and everything above the waist is still. When you're ready, top leg is going to lift up at the height of the top hip, trying not to let it droop down as we go through this series. From here, top leg is going to rotate up so that toes point up and heel points down, and then switch, toe down, heel up. Spinning through that leg, not changing height. Seeing how we can control this small movement. On this last one, holding here with toe up and heel down, holding this rotation, we're going to kick forward and kick, squeezing back. Inhale to the front and exhale to the back. We should feel our hips starting to get a little tired. On this last one, hold right underneath. We're going to bend in and press out. As we bend in, that knee kind of comes into that 45-degree angle, but our hips stay stacked. Every time you press that leg back out straight, we're also lengthening it long. Last one. From here, hold it up. Toe points down, heel points up. Keep that position right here. Swing it forward and swing it back. Making sure that as we squeeze backwards, we're not letting the chest open, we're not letting the belly open. Kind of keep everything closed as best you can. On this last one, hold right underneath of us. We're going to bend in, knee kind of points down to the mat, and then exhale, press back and diagonal, leading with the heel. Coming in and pressing. This is called a motorcycle press. We should feel a lot of work up here. Last one. On this last one, bend that knee into the front and just let it relax down. Focusing now on that bottom leg, straighten it out all the way. Exhale, lift up as high as you can and slowly lower. Exhale, lift, squeeze, pause, and release. On this last one, hold lifted, little pulses up. 1 inch up, 1 inch down at the top of that motion. Leg feeling heavy. For 3, 2, on the last one, squeeze and hold. Just lift up as high as you can, breathing here. For 3, 2, and slowly release down, don't plop it down. Top leg comes back up and over. Restack the hips, re-engage the core, lifting that belly button towards the spine. Maybe top hand comes to the top hip. From here, inhale, point up, exhale, flex down. The kick is not so much up directly towards the ceiling, but it is slightly at an angle so that we can keep the hips stacked. Pretend like there's a wall right behind you. Almost done. Last one here. Perfect. Relax it down. Roll over onto your back again and cross this top ankle over opposite knee. Rocking from side to side if that feels good. Doing whatever your body needs. Taking some deep breaths and just letting those hips melt down. When you are ready, we're going to lengthen arms and legs out long and take a nice full body stretch like you just woke up in the morning, either pointing or flexing the feet or both. We're going to do one more exercise on our backs before we roll onto our bellies. From here, right leg is going to come up towards the ceiling as straight as you can. And we're going to make large leg circles. So we want this work to come from the core as well. So exhale at the bottom of the circle, stabilizing through the pelvis. On this next one, reverse directions. Last two, and one. Perfect. Hug the knee into the chest. Give it a nice little break. Slide that right leg down, and from here, left leg reaches up towards the ceiling. As straight as you can. Exhale, circling around. You can make this circle smaller if you want to. On this last one, reverse directions. Last 3, 2, and 1. Hug the knee into the chest. From here, lengthening out long again. Roll over onto your belly. Finding length through your arms and length through your legs. We're going to pull belly button up towards the spine, engaging the core. And then from here, opposite arm and opposite leg are going to reach long. And then exhale, lengthen, and then hover. And lower. Alternate sides. Exhale, lift. Lengthen. Pretend like you're being pulled in 2 opposite directions. Ideally, we're feeling no pressure or tension in the low back because we're being supported by the core. If you feel work in the low back, make sure that you're not lifting up too high. On this next one, maybe starting to speed it up a little bit. Lift and lower, lift and lower. And then either staying at this speed or you can float arms and legs up. Really lengthen long, like you're reaching for something, flutter kicking both arms and both legs, head is neutral for 3, 2, and 1. Relax everything down. Instead of pressing to child's pose, we're going to come into a nice little propped position here. So elbows are going to bend a little bit, and your elbows are going to point out to the sides a little bit. So step number 1 is you're pressing your shoulders down away from your ears, and you're lengthening your head and neck. If this is uncomfortable for your low back at all, you can take it a little bit lower down. From here, we're really just kind of stabilizing through those shoulder blades and just holding and breathing. Press your shoulders down away from your ears again. Last one. Good. And then from here, hands can come under the chest. Press back into child's pose. Hands reach forward, forehead can relax down. And just relax everything down towards the ground, your belly and your pelvic floor included. This next one we haven't done in a while, but hands are going to separate to the width of your mat. And then from here, you're going to rotate your palms towards each other so that thumbs are pointing up and pinkies are pointing down. You're sliding your shoulder blades down and away, so kind of tuck them, pointing them back into your back pockets. And then from here, we're just going to lift and hover one arm up off of the mat. Sometimes it feels like we can't really lift, and that's okay. It's just alternating sides and lifting up as high as we can without letting the shoulder come up to the ear. This exercise here is for our low trap muscles. So ideally we want to feel this kind of in the mid-back here. That's what's helping us lift and lower. This one should feel harder than you thought. Last one on each side. Perfect. From here, let's come right onto our hands and knees. We're going to come through a few cat-cows. So round your back, look at your belly button, tuck your tailbone, and then looking forward, arching your back and just letting it go. Tailbone points up towards the ceiling. Keep it going. Included in this is our shoulder blades pressing away from our spine as we round our back. And then coming together, shoulder blades towards our spine. Letting our chest sink down. On this next one, as we lower the chest down and as we arch the back, we're going to shift our weight a little bit in towards our knees and towards our heels. And then take it right back to the center, round the back for your cat, and then press your weight a little bit more into your hands. Do what feels good here. If something doesn't feel quite right, don't go into that range of motion. This should feel good. And last one, rounding into your cat and press into those hands. Perfect. from here, take a little break and roll out the wrists if you need to. We're gonna prepare for some planks. And you can do this either on your forearms or your hands. I'll be on my forearms. If you choose that version, maybe I challenge you to keep your forearms parallel, meaning hands are not clasping together, they're open and maybe palms face up towards the ceiling. So from here, setting this good foundation, we're going to straighten one leg out and then the other. Start off with just a hold. We want a nice straight line all the way from heels through the top of your head. So that includes the head. Our head's not drooping down and it's not sticking up. Our face is right in between our hands or forearms. Holding here and breathing. If you feel like you're losing your good form, take a break, but see if you can hold. Last 3, 2, and 1. Relax down. This next round, we're going to challenge it with a little bit of a lift. So from here, finding your good strong position again. And we're going to lift one leg just to this height and back down, switching sides. No change in the back. Last one on each. And relax. For this last set, we're going to come into some hip dips. So all that changes is a slight tilt of our pelvis, and then we come right back into that same position. So one last round. Nice strong plank, and dip one side down, and then back up. I'm not really rotating through my legs that much, so my heels stay still. Getting those obliques, those side muscles warmed up a little bit. Last one. And relax. Perfect. Back into child's pose if that feels good. When you are ready, we're going to go ahead and lift the chest, coming into a butterfly facing forward, so soles of the feet together, and slowly bring your nose to your toes. Option to take a hand to the knee if you need a little bit more. And other side. From here, crisscross the legs and sit up as tall as you can. Either coming to hand or forearm, we're going to reach up and over, creating a nice long line through the side of our body, making sure that that hip doesn't raise up. We keep our hips anchored down. From here, big circle. And other side, hand or forearm, reaching up and over. Nice long stretch. Breathing through this. From here, circle that arm. And back up and over. Clasp your hands together. Reach your hands forward and your chest backwards. Maybe coming from right to left to get a deeper stretch. And back to the center. Reach your hands behind you. Open the chest and inhale through the nose. Maybe looking up a little bit. Sit up as tall as you can. Find some new length through the spine. Pulling your belly button in and sitting up as tall as you can. Roll your shoulders back. They're coming up toward your ears and then they're sliding down your spine. On this last one here, we're going to inhale and bring shoulders up to your ears, squeezing your eyes, your toes, and every single muscle that you possibly can. And then exhale, relax it down and shake it out. One more like that. Inhale, everything up and in, all that stress and tension. And then exhaling it, just letting it go. Thank you guys so much for joining tonight. If you have any questions, let me know.